It wasn't until I started reviewing movies and looking at them a little deeper that I really started to see the deep connection between a director and the film. Before that, it was just about the movie. Is it good? Is it bad? Did I enjoy it? And then it started to become about, oh, I can see the fingerprints of this person on this movie. The director of Edgar, the movie I want to talk about right now, is very important. It's Clint Eastwood, and I have a mixed relationship with him. I love some Clint Eastwood movies. He did Gran Torino, phenomenal film. One of the Flags of Our Fathers movies, I think it was actually the Iwo Jima one, Letters from Iwo Jima, love. Flags of Our Fathers, not so much. In some of the other Clint Eastwood movies, not so much. When Clint Eastwood fails for me as a director, it's when he gets so lost in telling the expanse of a story that he forgets that he's saying a lot of things I don't care about. He forgets that you can create boredom in spaces and not just emotion. It's an interesting kind of tug and pull that a director has. You want to leave space for emotion and for growth. Hugo is a great recent example of that. That movie is some would call it slow. I would call it deliberate. I think in Hugo those spaces allow for that emotion to build. But Clint Eastwood and Edgar is another good example of this as we get to it. Edgar has those spaces and it's just boring. In fact, most of this movie is boring. And that's saying something considering the story of who J. Edgar Hoover was is pretty compelling. It's pretty interesting. This man oversaw this part of government from the time it was created. He basically invented it and designed it and crafted it up until just a few years ago. It's a pretty interesting part of history, but the movie itself is not interesting. Leonardo DiCaprio gives a fine performance in this movie. There has been some comment about the aging of Leonardo DiCaprio, which is understandable. I mean, how old is he? He's got to be in his late 30s, 40. I have no idea. I'll look it up later. But he's not a kid, but he still looks like a kid. Well, the fact that he's playing a 60, 70-year-old man at parts in this movie can be a little off-putting. But you know what? The makeup actually did a great job. And that's not just with him. There are a couple other characters that aged through this entire movie. And I think they did a really, really good job. About as good as you can do. There is that, slight kind of kids playing dress-up and trying to act old kind of thing. But not much. I think I buy it. For the most part. That's not what took me out of this movie. What took me out of this movie was that it's just, there's nothing there to hold your attention. The storylines are drawn out. You really feel like it's a history lecture instead of looking in on history. And to me, if you're going to do a biopic, or a biopic, whichever way you want to say it, if you're going to do a biopic, you have to make me feel like it's been filmed and I'm watching the events. That's what keeps me engaged. If I feel like you're telling me a story that you're standing at a lectern and telling me a story, it just doesn't work as well. And unfortunately, I think that's where J. Edgar falls. I would not recommend this movie. It's not one. Check the cliff notes, Wikipedia J. Edgar Hoover, and just read about his life. You'll get about as much out of that.